what do you think that the indigenous people of Biafra is doing right now to get the support of the international community to support Biafra referendum?
The issue is that, in the processes of arriving at a point of a referendum, for example, everything begins with protest, for example. Every group that is seeking for a referendum must have done a very well acknowledged and recognized protest.
Yes.
Especially peaceful protests. So they must have proven before the world that they can peacefully organize themselves by way of governance. But they have to showcase that ability during the protest, because any group that can peacefully organize themselves in a protest and protest to the extent that the world acknowledge such protests. So that is a sample in the beginning of the whole matter. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there because there are other issues that requires you have to prove among the leadership of the group. Yes. They have to prove that capability of being able to govern themselves. And it depends on the challenges. It depends on what they have encountered. Like in the case of Biafra, as you can see, they have encountered the group, the IPOB group, that is fighting for this referendum, and have encountered all sorts of provocative
they are being pushed to the wall
from the Nigerian government. They have been killed en masse. They have been imprisoned illegally and unjustly. They have been persecuted in so many forms. Yes. Yet they maintained that peaceful approach. That is a very huge progress and a very huge record, because that shows that even if they are given their own country, they can manage crisis, they can manage problems, all this kind of violence. Because if you cannot manage crisis and violence when you are asking for a country, then how come you can manage it when you are given a country? Yes. Such government might become a tyrannic government, a destructive government to the world. So I believe strongly that this first stage of seeking for this referendum, by way of showcasing the world using protest, peaceful protest as an instrument, is enough evidence and enough achievement so far that they have achieved. Avoided all kind of provocation that could have led into a serious crisis that may prevent this referendum of a thing. But now that they have been able to maintain that peaceful approach, I think they have achieved. That is the basic. That is the basic.
I think the international community should have a position. What should be the position of the international community right now?
The international community so far, if you look at the whole incidences that have been taking ground all this while, you know that they don't have a choice.
Yes.
Than to grant the referendum. They don't have a choice, because the indigenous people of Biafra have not breached any international conditions and
principles.
Do you understand me now? They have been following it stage by stage. So let me tell you something about international position. Okay. No particular country will decide on the condition that must be followed in granting a people a referendum. It is the law that is there that determines the position of everybody. You know, it is the law that determines the position of everybody. Hence, you are fighting for freedom and you have not gone against that law. If you have been following and maintaining those principles, that qualifies you, automatically qualifies you to have that referendum. So it is not about what they think or what this country think or what the other country.
The position of the international community should be to to enforce those laws and the principles, making sure that the indigenous people of Biafra will get their referendum, right?
Their referendum in peace.
All right, thank you very much. So, since this is their position right now, let's assume that the indigenous people of Biafra get their referendum. So, what should be the role of the international community if Nigerian government rejects Biafra referendum?
The point is that it has happened in so many areas. It has happened in the past, whereby some government, autonomous government decided that they cannot allow a referendum to take place. What did they do there? They come down and they bring their own security to secure the people, and they came to observe and monitor the whole thing and make sure that it's being conducted in a very peaceful atmosphere. Hence, their security is involved. There is nothing to worry much about. They have no option than to bring down their security. If Nigeria is resisting and they have seen that the indigenous people of Biafra have met all the conditions, that have maintained all the principles, they have no other obligation other than to respect that principle and that law and allow them conduct their referendum peacefully.
So thank you very much for that. Now looking at it, the British, they are the colonial master in Nigeria, and they have a very huge interest in Nigerian economy and everything to keep the territorial integrity of Nigeria. That is what they're saying according to their High Commissioner in Nigeria. Do you not think that the British people can thwart the effort of the indigenous people of Biafra to get the support of the international community to support a referendum now?
No, the thing is that they will continue to do what they are doing, but the indigenous people of Biafra will continue to do what they are doing too. This whole thing is all about lobby. This whole thing is all about lobby. But one thing Britain can no longer do, unlike before, is that the issue of colonialism has been abolished.
Yes.
So the power of colonial masters have been reduced. But their influence is still there to some extent. But let me tell you what they are doing in Nigeria. They can only achieve that in thwarting the effort if the indigenous people of Biafra go violence. They can only achieve that if they go violence. Because it is only through the violence that the British government can sustain the violence for as many years as they want.
Yes.
Let me tell you what they are planning. The reason why Nigerian government is doing all they are doing all this while, killing Biafrans, locking people up, persecuting them in different kinds, even the recent one that is happening, the reason why they are doing all those things is to provoke
the indigenous people of Biafra to take up
so that they will go into violence. And the Britain will now just come in and sustain that violence to as many years
as they want.
Because they knew very well that with the method that the indigenous people of Biafra are using currently, they cannot go far with their international lobby. Are you getting me now?
That is British.
The British cannot achieve much. Because you cannot in international politics is not steady.
Yes.
It is not one.
You are saying here that they have nothing to accuse the indigenous people of Biafra right now.
What happened economically this year? What happened economically this year must be different from what will happen next year. So the economic interests of each country that holds the superpower in the United Nations or whatever body that is in charge of the governance of the world, their economic interest differs every year, and that will affect the condition and the decisions or any effort that Britain is making in order to thwart the indigenous people of Biafra referendum. So nobody should be afraid of British effort. The only area people should be very, very conscious of is not to go violence. Because the moment you go violence, Britain will sustain Nigeria to keep that violence for as many years as they want. Just like what happened in the Southern Sudan. Are you getting me now? So that is where they are waiting for indigenous people of Biafra. So, but as long as we do not go that way, Very soon, I want to assure you, very soon they will be tired.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Nadia. Of course, you put it straight that the target of the British now is to see indigenous people of Biafra to go violent, and on the process, they will be able to achieve what they want and to keep these people hostage. So that is it, and I think it's time for the British government to allow the indigenous people of Biafra to control their destiny. I think it is time for that. And when it comes to international politics, I think somebody like Trump cannot allow any special interest to subdue the international law and the democracy, which that is exactly what the British is doing now. They are trying to use their lobby and diplomacy to subdue the international law and the democracy in order to deny the indigenous people of Biafra their freedom. We believe that somebody like Trump cannot allow such thing to happen because Trump doesn't tolerate what they call special interest. So thank you very much, Mr. Nadia. Of course, you put it straight. When Biafrans get their referendum through the support of the international community, what should be the benefit of the international community?
You know, if it happened today that Biafrans are given the opportunity to govern themselves. Of course, you know that Biafrans are known to be very, very active in economic development, of which that is why Nigeria does not want Biafrans to go, because they know that these people hold the power to sustain an economy, a very smooth running economy. So they have what it takes, both mentally, physically, and morally to sustain an economy. So the world knew that these people can achieve something economically. Even the Europeans are afraid of what Biafra might be. That's why during the war, there is this saying that they don't want another Japan.
Yes.
To rise.
Yes.
In that part of Africa. So they are afraid. So many countries are afraid, especially from the Europe. Many countries are afraid of Biafrans and what Biafrans can do. So the international community stands to benefit, especially on the security side, because to allow Biafra to go, being a very peaceful people who have no security challenges, if not because they are in Nigeria today. At least Biafra will be the best peaceful and the most peaceful country in Africa that will help other parts of the world in sustenance of peace around the entire Africa. I can assure you that, and I'm very, very sure in what I'm saying.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nadi. Yes, of course, also looking at it, you see that the indigenous people of Biafra, if a referendum is granted and the referendum is conducted peacefully, it will bring, in fact, it will bring civilization to West Africa. It will bring civilization, and also it will encourage other indigenous people all over the world to maintain peace in agitation, because you see terrorism in many places is as a result of violence. So when the indigenous people follow the law, like the indigenous people of Biafra, the indigenous people of Biafra is doing right now, if other indigenous people follow the law, you see that it will bring peace, it will bring civilization in Africa. So this is what the international community must do right now, and the other democratic nations. What the indigenous people of Biafra is doing right now is, in fact, they are following the right step to get their freedom, to get Biafra restored. So right now, do you think that because we have seen that based on what the indigenous people of Biafra is doing, and what should be the position of the international community, and what should be the position, what Nigerian government can do, and what should be the response? So that means that the indigenous people of Biafra can have their referendum. So do you think that the bigger number of Biafrans can vote yes in a referendum?
Of course, that is guaranteed, because if you look at the...
But some politicians are saying that Biafrans love Nigeria.
No, the point is that the issue of referendum is not determined on the newspaper, on the pages of newspaper.
Of course, yes.
It cannot be determined on it is a practical thing.
Yes.
It's something that when it is done,
it's done.
You see it, I see it.
Yes.
Then we know. I remember one politician, one APC politician also sometimes that said that in one of their gatherings, he said that if Biafra is given opportunity for referendum, that if Biafra doesn't score 99%, he will kill himself and he will commit suicide. I could remember that man making that comment. He's also a politician too. So what am I trying to say? There are politicians that are secretly in support of this struggle, but they will not come out because they are afraid, and they are confused, and they are also selfish and greedy. So it is never in any record where politicians lead the struggle for freedom. It is never being done. So it is the activists that will lead the struggle. The politicians always come into the struggle at the last stage. So, and I can assure you, even these current politicians of Biafran origin that are playing all this nonsense, definitely they are going to come because they don't have option. If they don't come at that time, then their future is closed.